Where Chicago Sky rookie forward Angel Reese was ejected from the game last night, the New York Liberty, after drawing consecutive technical fouls.
Angel Reese, suspended, not for injury, not for off-court drama, but for her 8th technical foul of the season, 8 techs, and she's out. The league rule is simple. Once you cross that line, you sit. And right now, the league's most polarizing young star is watching from the sidelines. Let's be clear, Reese's style has always been fiery. We've seen her stare downs, we've seen her trash talk, we've seen her push the limits. But this was the breaking point. A season already full of tension boiled over with one more whistle, and just like that, she's the headline again.
That's Angel Reese, thinking she's LeBron James, thinking that she's, Kevin Durant, thinking she's James Harden, thinking that, after 2 seasons in the WNBA, she's some sort of commodity that has to be surrounded by the best and greatest players.
And this isn't just another foul call. This feels bigger. Because when you look at Angel Reese, you don't just see a player battling refs, you see a player fighting a whole narrative, the villain label, the out-of-control tag. In the WNBA, once you rack up 8 technical fouls, the punishment is automatic. No appeals, no wiggle room. It's a 1-game suspension, no questions asked. Reese hit that number after the Sky's game against the Connecticut Sun. But you see, part of Reese's game is emotion. That edge is what made her a star at LSU. It's what fuels her dominance in the paint. The problem is that when that emotion crosses into excess, you get suspensions. You get distractions. You get questions about whether she's a leader or a liability. So the suspension wasn't just a technicality. It was a moment that put her whole reputation under the spotlight again. And instead of calming the storm, she added fuel to it. And here's where things got worse. After the loss and her suspension news, Reese sat down for an interview. Instead of keeping it about herself, she went big and dragged her teammates into it.
She buried her coaching staff, buried her teammates, buried, the moves that were made for the front office and just the general idea of the organization itself, the moves that need to be made. Now, a lot of us have.
She said the Sky can't settle for the same roster. She called for great players in free agency. She hinted that she and Camila Cardoso are the only sure returners. And then came the line about Courtney Vandersloot, one of the franchise's most respected names. Reese basically said the team couldn't rely on her coming back from injury at her age. See, that hit hard. Vandersloot tore her ACL. She's a Sky legend. And to hear a second-year player already positioning herself above her teammates, that rubbed people the wrong way. The media ran with it, and fans saw it as arrogance. Even her teammates, according to reports, weren't happy.
I don't think I'm frustrated. I probably am frustrated myself right now. I think the language is taken out of context, and I really didn't intentionally mean to put down my teammates because they've been through this with me throughout the whole year. They've busted their ass just how I busted my ass. They showed up for me through thick and thin and in the locker room when nobody could see anything. So I would apologize to my teammates, which I already have, about the article and how it was misconstrued, about what was said. And I just have to be better with my language because I know it's not the message, it's the messenger, and understanding what I say can be taken any kind of way. So I just have to really be better and grow from this.
Reese later apologized. She told reporters her words were taken out of context. She said she didn't mean to put her teammates down. But at that point, the damage was done. The locker room had already seen the quotes. They had already felt that sting. And in a season where the Sky are missing the playoffs, the last thing they needed was a public division. Come to think of it, this is where perception becomes reality. Reese may have meant to call for accountability, but it came across as self-promotion. Instead of building her teammates up, it sounded like she was tearing them down, or she probably wants to leave.
I've been telling you all that Angel Reese wants out of Chicago. She's a front runner. She's going to, I said this very early in this season, she's going to be looking to exit the Chicago Sky. The going has gotten tough, and when the going gets tough, Angel Reese gets going, just ask Maryland.
And in sports, that kind of leadership gets questioned real fast. And Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when Angel Reese's suspension hit the news. He was blunt. Angel Reese is a star, but she's not Caitlin Clark. Not yet. He pointed out how quickly the league punishes her, while at the same time, Clark keeps her shine no matter what. I mean, when she said fans aren't just watching for Clark, but for her too. And then weeks later, she gets ejected. You can't make that up.
And when Angel Reese comes out and says, she ain't the only one everybody's watching, they're watching me too, they're watching others, a day later she gets ejected. I ask a simple question. I don't have an answer. I'm not pretending to have an answer. I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm going to ask you a simple question. If that's Caitlin Clark, does she get ejected from that game?
Reese has walked straight into the trap the media set for her. See, Steven also leaned on the fairness versus reality angle. If that was Caitlin Clark, does she get tossed? No, and y'all know better. That's his way of saying the rules may be the same, but the whistle isn't. The league protects its golden goose, and everyone knows who that is. Reese doesn't get that same shield.
That I highlighted was that Caitlin Clark's the golden goose. She happens to be a terrific talent who's white and very, very marketable. The combination of the two things make her the golden goose for the WNBA. Go after her, compete with her, get the better of her at every turn. Nobody's questioning that you can't go after her.
But here's where he tore into her decisions. He said, "It ain't fair." But fair is a place where they judge pigs. The reality is, Clark is the golden goose. You don't bite the hand that feeds the league. Steven was crystal clear. Reese can't win if she keeps fighting the business side of the game instead of playing it smart. At the same time, Steven didn't deny her talent. He admitted, the girl can play. She's physical, she's relentless, she's got star power. But if your antics start overshadowing your game, then people stop talking about your buckets and start talking about your techs. That's the kind of brutal honesty only he delivers. So in his eyes, Angel Reese is caught between image and reality. She has what it takes to be a force in the WNBA, but the league isn't going to bend for her. It's either she adapts, or she keeps getting painted as the villain who can't control herself.
That's Angel Reese and her delusion that we should not be surprised by, because the way she's talked about, the way she's discussed, the way that Ryan Clark and all these other people cape up for Angel Reese and pretend like she's the greatest thing since sliced bread, she's leaned into her delusion. She wants everybody out of here. Do we have the quote where none of this is a secret. Angel Reese is a nightmare to play with and play for.
And Jason Whitlock came at it from a harsher place. His critique was straight up. He called Angel Reese immature. He said she was more focused on drama than discipline, more invested in sound bites than in basketball. See, Whitlock argued that her brand is slowly drifting away from her actual game. Instead of the headlines being about rebounds and wins, they're about texts, ejections, and interviews where she undercuts her teammates. That's a dangerous path, where the attention feels good now but will destroy her long-term reputation. Come to think of it, Whitlock's biggest point was about image. He thinks the league will happily turn Reese into the villain next to Caitlin Clark. Clark is the safe face of the WNBA, the record breaker, the golden goose, the girl next door. Reese is being set up as the opposite. Whitlock said if she keeps handing them ammo with her words and actions, she'll get locked in that role permanently. And this isn't just basketball anymore. It's bigger than that. Monica McNutt touched on it in her back and forth with Steven. The way Clark and Reese are framed in the media is night and day. Clark gets painted as the victim, the one under attack, the golden star shining through it all. Reese gets painted as the villain, the bully, the troublemaker, the loud one.
These conversations hit the mainstream, right? It's easy to see that Caitlin is usually portrayed as the victim and Angel is usually portrayed as the villain. And that is rooted in my observation. Somebody can tell me I'm wrong, but it is rooted in my observation in the racial identity of these women and where they come from.
The problem is that narrative lines up with racial undertones that fans and media amplify. Reese is a black woman, outspoken, emotional on the court. Clark is a white woman, quieter in her approach, focused in her play. The contrast becomes easy for the media to exploit, even if it's unfair. And fans weaponize this dynamic. Clark fans will point at Reese's texts and say, "See, out of control." Reese fans fire back that Clark gets protected and handed calls. It creates a divide that fuels clicks, but damages both players' actual careers. And then there's the fan behavior. The WNBA already had to investigate hateful remarks directed at Reese. That crosses the line from rivalry to danger. Steven even said Reese shouldn't have to accept being disrespected in ways Clark never is. This isn't just about basketball. It's about how fans feel entitled to pick sides and drag players with toxic energy. But here's the business reality. Stephen A. reminded everyone of it. Caitlin Clark equals record ratings. She's the one selling out arenas, driving TV numbers, pulling in sponsors.
Look at the profile that it has granted the WNBA. Look at the record ratings they've produced because of her arrival. Once upon a time, they were watching about their audience in Indiana for Indiana Fever games was at about 4,000. Now it's at about 16 to 17,000. The ratings for the WNBA draft was 2.446 million, which was the largest in WNBA history. The doubleheader that opened the season generated over 1.5 million viewers, which was more than the WNBA had accumulated in more than 2 decades. You have all of this stuff going on. Understand, Caitlin Clark is different.
The league sees her as the key to growth. Reese? She's a star too, but she doesn't carry that business weight. The league rises if Clark rises. And if Angel wants to ride that wave, she can benefit. But if she fights the tide, she'll drown. That's the hard truth. Clark is untouchable right now. And Reese has to decide if she'll work with that reality or fight it. So when Reese leans into the villain role, stacking texts, calling out teammates, and showing up in headlines, she plays into the narrative already waiting for her. And once that villain image sticks, it's almost impossible to shake. Quite right, every great story needs a villain. But what happens when the villain role stops being a storyline and starts being your career? That's the tension hanging over Angel Reese. Think about the pattern. Texts piling up, confrontations with refs, staring down opponents. Then the interviews, where instead of lifting her teammates, she positions herself as the future of the sky. It's bold, but it adds to the perception she's all about herself. And that's where the locker room comes in. Reports already say Reese's teammates weren't happy with her comments. The organization had to schedule a meeting to address it. That's not just media spin. That's real tension inside the team. Sure, Reese still has support. Lonzo Ball even offered to cover her fine after her last ejection. That shows she's not alone. People respect her fire. But patience doesn't last forever. If suspensions keep piling up, if headlines keep dragging her name, at what point do her teammates and supporters start questioning if she's worth the chaos? The danger is clear. Once the locker room sees you as a distraction, not a leader, your influence dies. And once the league sees you as the villain they can market, you'll never get the same protection or praise as the hero on the other side. So Angel Reese has to decide, is she going to keep playing into the villain versus hero story? Or is she going to flip the script and force the league to talk about her game instead of her techs? Because right now, the villain role is swallowing everything else. So here's the question. Does Angel Reese double down on being the villain? Or does she flip the script and prove her game speaks louder than her techs? What do you think? Thanks for watching.